My wife and I are both foreign nationals and I am 30 years of age. We have been together for 11 years and I previously believed that our relationship was progressing well. However, recently there have been changes in our dynamic. To provide context, I am employed as a dispatcher for truckers, a position that offers a satisfactory income, comprehensive benefits, and the financial stability to support a comfortable lifestyle for both myself and my wife. My wife previously held a position in the gaming computer industry, but due to restructuring, she was let go. Consequently, I have assumed the role of the sole breadwinner, working additional hours to maintain our livelihood. One day, my vehicle's battery ceased functioning, necessitating my request for my wife to provide me with transportation to work. Upon our arrival at the parking lot, I observed my colleague. I greeted Andrew, who then approached me to exchange pleasantries. I proceeded to introduce him to my wife, who extended a handshake in return. Andrew then turned to me and stated that I had not previously informed him of the beauty of his future in-law. My wife blushed, and I responded with a remark about how fortunate I was to have her. Subsequently, we both proceeded to our respective places of work. A few days later, my vehicle was repaired and operational, so I continued my usual commute during lunch. However, I could not help but observe my wife's vehicle in the parking lot. I proceeded towards it and observed her engaged in conversation and lunch with Andrew. I was disconcerted to observe my wife's vehicle in the parking lot. I approached her and knocked on the window. She opened the door and informed me that she and Andrew had lunched together earlier that day. Andrew then interjected, expressing hope that I was not displeased. I took a moment to collect my thoughts and replied that I was not upset. I then turned and walked back to my vehicle. I was aware that any further comment would result in an argument. I sensed my wife becoming increasingly frustrated as a result of my abrupt departure. Later that day, upon my return home, she became enraged, accusing me of embarrassing her in front of Andrew. In response, I questioned her rationale for being so concerned and inquired as to the nature of their relationship. She responded with, "I'm a grown woman and I don't have to tell you anything," and then walked away. Since then, she has been distant, and I have noticed she has been spending more time on her phone, calling and texting her friends. I suspect it is Andrew, but I do not want to accuse her and thereby appear foolish if I am wrong. If I am mistaken, I will admit my error. However, I believe it is my duty to speak up. I am unsure of the best course of action. I consulted with a friend, who provided me with an Apple AirTag. I intend to discreetly place it in my wife's vehicle and track it to gather evidence in case our relationship deteriorates. One aspect of the situation that presents a challenge is the possibility of divorce. Given the significant history and shared experiences between the two individuals, it is understandable that the prospect of such a drastic change in their relationship may be difficult to accept. However, there is a sense that it may be necessary to consider this option. Updates will be provided as circumstances allow. At last, I have the opportunity to provide you with further details and evidence. My friend kindly lent me his AirTag, which I discreetly placed in my wife's car and followed. She had informed me that she was going to meet a friend, but I had my reservations, so I followed her in my friend's car to avoid being noticed. After approximately 20 minutes, she exited the vehicle and proceeded to enter a hotel. After approximately 1 minute, she arrived at a hotel. I must admit that I experienced a sense of unease and a rapid heartbeat. I was hoping that I had misinterpreted this situation and that she was meeting a friend. However, I observed Andrew greeting my wife with enthusiastic embraces and kissing her passionately. I was deeply distressed and angry. I was filled with the urge to confront Andrew and demand that my wife leave the house and take her belongings. I resisted the urge to act on my impulses and instead retrieved my phone to discreetly capture photographic evidence of the couple before departing the scene. As I observed them enter the hotel, I was overcome with emotion and began to express my feelings through a series of intense outbursts. I even resorted to physical violence by striking a hole in the wall. Upon returning home, I was unable to contain my distress and proceeded to engage in a verbal altercation, expressing my frustration and anguish. I then contacted a friend, who promptly arrived at my residence and viewed the photographic evidence. I proceeded to shed tears once more and articulated my feelings by shouting, 11 years wasted. My friend provided comfort and counsel, suggesting that I seek legal assistance while gathering further evidence against my wife. It was challenging to maintain a facade of strength, but I assured my friend that I would endeavor to do so in the weeks that followed. I continued to accumulate evidence and maintain my distance. I observed them going to restaurants, movies, and hotels together, and each time it caused me pain, but I remained strong and did not confront them. I did not inquire about her claims of going out with friends or family. I believed I could maintain the facade for a few more days, particularly since the lawyer I was consulting assured me that I had sufficient evidence to ensure a favorable outcome in the divorce. However, I believe I made a mistake yesterday. It was my birthday, and I was not particularly celebratory. My wife did not wish me a happy birthday, but her parents did when I went to work. On the occasion of my birthday, my colleagues presented me with a cake and gifts. I attempted to conceal my emotions for a brief period until I encountered Andrew. He presented me with a gift and I feigned gratitude and appreciation as I opened it. It was a Batman comic, which I found surprising given that my colleagues were largely unaware of my interest in comics, particularly those from the DC universe, which happens to be my favorite. When I mentioned this to Andrew, he informed me that my wife had informed him of my interest. This prompted a surge of rage, and I subsequently lost consciousness. The next thing I remember is my colleague. My colleagues attempted to restrain me while Andrew stood in the corner, holding his nose and shouting, "What the duck?" In the heat of the moment, I screamed, "I know you've been sleeping with my wife." The room fell silent, and everyone turned their gaze to Andrew. He attempted to explain, but I was too enraged to listen. I wanted to slap him until he could not move anymore. However, my boss then entered the room, observed the situation, and sent Andrew home. He summoned me to his office where I recounted the events and showed him some of the pictures as evidence. He apologized to me and gave me some time off to sort things out, assuring me that he would handle the situation with Andrew. When I returned home, I was met with a hostile reception from my wife, who accused me of being responsible for what happened to Andrew and claimed that she had dissuaded him from pressing charges. She continued to express her frustration, emphasizing that Andrew treats her well and makes her feel special. I was unable to tolerate this prolonged display of emotion and responded with a strongly worded retort. I was taken aback and fell silent. I continued, stating that if he makes her feel so special, she should move in with him and allow him to support her financially, as I was no longer willing to provide that support. She then began to cry and expressed remorse. She attempted to explain that Andrew had caught her in a moment of weakness. I took a deep breath and firmly advised her to seek legal counsel regarding the dissolution of our marriage. She continued to apologize and stated that she could not afford a lawyer, emphasizing the need to work on our relationship. I simply looked at her. I informed her that she should gather her belongings. She persisted in her distress and entreaties, but I took her suitcase and contacted her sister to facilitate her departure. She barricaded herself in the bathroom, refusing to emerge unless I was amenable to reconciliation. I reiterated that I was not interested in reconciliation and that we required a period of separation because her presence provoked feelings of anger and distress. Eventually, she emerged, expressed remorse, and gathered her belongings, awaiting her sister's arrival. I am now alone in the house. I am experiencing a profound emotional distress, grappling with a multitude of conflicting emotions. I am at a loss as to how to proceed. I intend to consult with my legal counsel tomorrow. I have finally mustered the courage to provide an update on the developments since my previous communication. It has been a challenging and emotionally turbulent period, but I am gradually regaining my equilibrium following my wife's departure and the commencement of divorce proceedings. I have concentrated on self-care and rebuilding my life amidst these circumstances. I received some unexpected news at work, which led to a promotion. I was promoted to a higher position, which came with more responsibility and a raise. Surprisingly, Andrew, the individual who had betrayed me and caused me significant distress, was now my subordinate. I initially found this development difficult to accept, but I viewed it as an opportunity for retribution. I seized every chance to reprimand Andrew, ensuring he felt the consequences of his actions. I made jokes at his expense, relishing in his discomfort. This approach may not have been the most mature way to handle the situation, but it brought me a sense of it was gratifying to observe Andrew's discomfort. Understandably, he grew increasingly exasperated with my behavior. He lashed out at me on a few occasions, but I found humor in his anger. It was a small victory for me, knowing that I had the upper hand and that he was forced to endure the consequences of his actions. However, the real turning point came when I discovered that Andrew had stolen food that was meant for everyone in the office. It was a flagrant act of disrespect and entitlement. I could not allow him to get away with it. In a moment of boldness, I confronted him in front of the entire staff. I exposed his actions and terminated his employment on the spot. The look of shock and humiliation on Andrew's face was priceless. It was a taste of karma that he had brought upon himself. The office erupted into a mix of shock, disbelief, and some even applauded my actions. It was a defining moment where I reclaimed my power and demonstrated to Andrew that his behavior would not be tolerated. As the divorce proceeding continued, I made sure to focus on my own well-being. I refused to allow the past to define my identity. The divorce was finalized, and while my former spouse, my wife, had moved on with her life, while Andrew found himself unemployed and forced to confront the consequences of his actions. In contrast, I was able to flourish professionally and dedicate myself to personal growth and pursuing my passions. I surrounded myself with supportive friends and family who helped me heal from the wounds of the past. It was a process, but gradually I found myself living my best life. In hindsight, I realized that the desire for revenge was not merely about inflicting harm on others but also about achieving a sense of closure and moving forward. It was about reclaiming one's power and finding happiness despite the pain endured. I can confidently assert that I have emerged from the ordeal stronger than ever. I have found love again with someone who values and respects me. Together, we are building a future characterized by trust, laughter, and mutual support. As for my former spouse and Andrew, my wife and Andrew are inconsequential figures in the narrative of my life. I have progressed beyond them, leaving behind the pain and betrayal they brought into my life. They are no longer a source of anger or bitterness. Instead, they serve as reminders of the lessons I have learned and the resilience I have discovered within myself. Life has a way of teaching us valuable lessons, and through this journey, I have learned the importance of forgiveness and self-love. Love and the power of letting go. I am grateful for the challenges I have faced, as they have shaped me into the person I am today. My story is not one of revenge triumphing over others, rather, it is a tale of personal growth and the pursuit of happiness after heartbreak. I have found peace within myself and am excited to embrace the bright future that lies ahead. Second story: the affair spanned a period of 1 month. During this time, the man's wife sent me a series of images and videos captured on his phone. These images and videos documented the man's infidelity, which involved both him and his wife engaging in sexual intercourse with another individual. The discovery of these images and videos was a significant and distressing revelation for me. One of the aspects that caused me the greatest distress was the fact that the man's wife engaged in certain sexual acts with the other individual that she had previously refused to engage in with me. She justified her actions by claiming that the other individual was her husband and that she was therefore bound by certain principles and rules that she had previously espoused. She claimed that the actions in question were disgusting and against her principles as a woman. She also stated that she had previously informed me of her personal boundaries. I provided her with an opportunity to be honest with me, but instead, she engaged in gaslighting and denied everything I told her. She even swore on our daughter's life to maintain her innocence. If she had any integrity or respect for me, she would have told me the truth immediately. However, she denied everything and accused me of making baseless accusations without evidence. I presented her with the undeniable facts, and when faced with the evidence, she broke down and admitted her guilt. She realized that her betrayal was extremely disrespectful and something she would never be able to forgive. Let's jump ahead 6 years, just last month. My daughter asked if I would come to a dinner she was preparing for her baking and cooking competition. I agreed, but there was a catch: my wife's mother, would also be in attendance. My daughter is aware of the circumstances surrounding our divorce and is cognizant of the fact that I have no contact with her mother. It is important to note that I have not seen or spoken to my ex-wife in nearly 6 years. At the dinner, my former in-laws, my ex-wife, and my sisters were present. My daughter's food was exquisite, and the event proceeded without incident. Approximately a week after the dinner, I received a phone call from my ex-wife. I answered the call because I assumed something might be amiss with our daughter. However, it turned out that there was nothing untoward with our daughter. Instead, the call was regarding my ex-wife. My wife expressed a desire to apologize for her past actions and the damage she had caused to our family. She mentioned that our daughter was terrified of the idea of asking me to be in the same place as her and believed our current dynamic was unhealthy. She inquired as to whether there was any way for us to listen to her without interruption and allowed her to express her thoughts in their entirety. Once she had finished, I responded by stating that I was unable to accommodate her request. This is a situation where I would appreciate guidance. My sister has informed me that my former spouse, my wife, is genuinely remorseful for the disruption to our family and is keen to facilitate a healthy environment for our daughter. My sister has advised me to move on and consider the impact on our daughter's mental health. I have highlighted to my sister that if I am unhappy, I am unable to provide a positive role model for my daughter. My wife does not contribute to my happiness, so I am seeking unbiased opinions on the matter of forgiving my ex-wife and working towards a more harmonious coexistence. The relationship with her is one that must be maintained for the sake of our daughter. Yesterday, I engaged in a discussion with my 15-year-old daughter, during which she revealed information that significantly impacted my perspective. She stated that she is aware of my love for her and that I am willing to do anything for her. However, she expressed a desire to avoid taking advantage of my love by expecting me to do things that I would not normally do. According to my daughter, her mother is experiencing feelings of sadness and frequently tells her that I will never move past hating her. This creates a challenging situation for everyone involved, as they also judge her based on her past. It appears that my ex-wife, the wife, vents her frustrations to our daughter because she lacks the support of a close-knit social circle with whom she can confide. The majority of the couple's childhood friends have distanced themselves from them as a result of the wife's actions. She used girls' nights as an opportunity to be with her affair partner, a fact that some of the wives were aware of and either knowingly or unknowingly covered for her. This caused a great deal of drama among the couple's friends. There is a belief that some of the other wives may have been unfaithful as well, but there is no concrete proof. Since the couple's divorce, the other wives have basically excluded her from the group. The group was formed with the intention of protecting their marriages. My daughter also shared with me that she misses us being together as a family. However, she understands that her mother and I still love her. She then asked me about forgiveness and unforgiveness and the things that can't be forgiven. I explained to her that it ultimately depends on the standards you set for yourself. It is based on your own morality and values. I told her that sometimes one may dislike someone's actions without disliking the person themselves. However, there are also instances when it is challenging to differentiate between the actions and the person. I informed my daughter that her mother's actions are inextricably linked to her as a person. This does not imply that she is a bad mother, but rather that her actions have had a profound impact on our relationship. I elucidated that merely uttering an apology does not inherently rectify the situation. Actions have consequences, and in her mother's case, her actions are a part of who she is. My daughter then inquired as to whether I have ever forgiven someone who hurt me. I responded affirmatively, stating that I have forgiven numerous individuals throughout my life. I emphasized the importance of forgiveness as a quality. Overall, we had a productive conversation last night, during which I reassured her that her mother and I will always be available to support her during significant life events. I will be discussing my former spouse. The wife's remarks to our daughter when I converse with her shortly.